The GOP Civil War has been fascinating to observe for the past several weeks, since Boehner's purge back in December. Mark Willis, in his run for the chairmanship of the RNC, mounted an offensive in the Civil War which the establishment did not expect from the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party. It forced the establishment to reallocate time and resources away from the fight at the grassroots level and focus them on fighting to retain control of the chairmanship. And that helped contribute to the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party taking over certain aspects of the grassroots in Iowa, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida. Though we have won victories in these 4 states, the establishment is striking back with offensives of their own. We've seen this in Maine, Alaska, and Wisconsin. In Maine, a smear campaign was launched against Reince Priebus's challenger for the chairmanship, Mark Willis, and the smear campaign was directed not only to help stop Willis's campaign for the chairmanship, but it also appeared to be launched to get Willis off the Republican National Committee. In Alaska, a campaign has been launched to remove the new leaders of the Alaska Republican Party, who are also members of the Liberty Movement. And in Wisconsin, the local Republican Party there has purged a member of the Liberty Movement from their ranks. So with the first moves having been made and the fight for the chairmanship now over, where can we expect the establishment's next strike to be? Based on the evidence, it is my belief that the establishment's next strike will be in the states of Alaska and Minnesota. The establishment will choose Alaska because Alaska is a state that is fast becoming a one-party state. And that one party is the Republican Party. The Democratic Party in Alaska is in disarray and is falling apart and losing members very, very fast. And the Republican Party, though they are not in the best of health, they are in much better condition, and they hold the vast majority of the state offices in that state. In addition, Alaska has a Democratic senator up for a re-election in 2014, and all political analysts believe that this senator is incredibly vulnerable to a Republican challenge. With this in mind, the establishment does not wish to give the Liberty Movement a beachhead from which to launch more of their members into the national debate, which is what could happen if the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party keep control of the Alaska Republican Party. We are already seeing this with the establishment launching charges against the new leaders of the Alaska Republican Party and seeking to remove them from their positions. The leading candidate to challenge the Democratic senator in Alaska in 2014 appears to be Tea Party member and Liberty Movement ally Joe Miller, who was the Tea Party's candidate for the United States Senate in Alaska in 2010. The establishment would like nothing better than to put one of their own people up running against this senator rather than Joe Miller, but they know that their attempt to do so will be much harder if the Liberty Movement controls the Alaska Republican Party and throws their weight behind Miller. It is for these reasons that I believe that the establishment is going to make their first counteroffensive in Alaska, and the Liberty Movement must be prepared to defend and throw back this counteroffensive. In Minnesota, the establishment sees an opportunity to take back what they have lost to the Liberty Movement. In 2010, the Tea Party won the nomination for governor for their candidate, Tom Emmer, and in 2012, the Liberty Movement won the Senate endorsement for their candidate, Kurt Bills. The establishment either endorsed other candidates or they almost completely abandoned these candidates in the general elections, leading to losses by Emmer and Bills. And the establishment is now using these losses as examples to prove their theory that the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party cannot hope to win statewide offices in Minnesota, or national offices for that matter. The establishment is wrong. The real reason for the losses is because the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party are still growing and they've been abandoned by the establishment. Their candidates have anyway. But seeing as the establishment controls the mainstream news media, that is news that you will not get out to the local populace through the media. That's going to be our job to do that. We will have to inform the populace that our candidates can win as long as we put our own efforts into it. So the establishment will be fighting to take over control of the main chairmanships of the Minnesota State GOP, which will be up for election very soon. And if they do so, they can purge more members of the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party from their ranks. So it is very important that the Liberty Movement and the Tea Party hang on to control of these chairmanship positions or gain those positions for their allies so that they can then advance and build further down the road, especially with a governor's race and a Senate race coming up in that state in 2014. Finally, once Alaska and Minnesota are finished as battlegrounds and once control of those states' local parties have been decided, the establishment will be looking to other states to try and make more offensives of their own. Based on the evidence, again, it is my belief that the two states they will focus on first are Nevada and Maine. The establishment members of the national GOP have described the Nevada Republican Party as hopelessly dysfunctional, when in reality the Nevada Republican Party is in position to start making some real gains, but the national GOP does not want to recognize that because the Nevada Republican Party has been taken over by Ron Paul supporters. And in Maine, there has also been a takeover by the Ron Paul supporters, and the establishment must be looking at this as an opportunity to make examples out of Maine and Nevada of what will happen if Ron Paul supporters are allowed to rise to leadership positions in state Republican parties. It is still too early to say for sure that this is what the establishment and their leaders in the national GOP will do, but based on the evidence that we've been seeing and the hints that have been coming out, it is my belief that that is what will happen. We are clearly making great advances. The fact that Reince Priebus comes out and admits that he reads the Daily Paul means that the establishment is really beginning to fear us as a national force. We are no longer insignificant delegates who can be swept aside. We have gained experience thanks to the 2012 race, and we now know what needs to happen, and we've seen through the establishment's tricks. So with all this in mind, the establishment knows they have a fight on their hands, and they're going to be fighting even harder. The other question we need to ask ourselves is, when will the purge of us as grassroots members from the party take place? There are now a couple options. It could happen as early as the end of this year, or it could happen next year during the 2014 races, or they could wait until the 2016 presidential race, or there is now a possibility, thanks to hints dropped by Priebus, that they could be looking to try and reconcile with us and, in a way, try to corrupt us. But it's still too early to say which road they will take. I believe we can look for an indication of which way the wind's going to blow if we take a look at Virginia's governor's race. In Virginia, the Liberty Movement's ally, Ken Cuccinelli, appears to have all but wrapped up the Republican nomination for governor, but he is facing a lurking threat in the background from the candidate that he defeated for that nomination, Lieutenant Governor Bill Bolling. Bolling has dropped hints that he may run as an independent candidate. And if he does so, then it could be an indication that the purge of our members from the national GOP structure cannot be far away. So in the long run, keep up your good work. Let's continue taking over the grassroots. We are winning and we are on the offensive. Let us stay on the offensive until we are ready to take our next step.